Alrighty, what is going on, guys? It is Northeast Ohio Thuzy here, and today I wanted to give you guys my little top 10 ranking as of May of 2024. I have not been on Top Thrill 2 yet, nor have I gone to anything west of the Mississippi, so my rankings are going to be a little bit thin compared to some more well-established enthusiasts, but I hope this can give you guys a good idea of the coasters that I'm into and the coasters that I believe other people should at least get on once. If you like what you see, make sure to give this video a like and a comment, and just let me know what you guys want to see in the future, and if you have any questions about how I ranked these. This is just personal opinion, so don't take it personal if your favorite ride or one of your favorite rides is not listed. I'm also going to probably do an honorable mention at the end of this. So yeah, just let me know if you guys have any questions or concerns in the comments, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, guys, coming at number 10 on my ranking is going to be Phantom's Revenge over at Kennywood. This ride is one of my favorites, mostly because of the restraints on this thing. So most hyper coasters, and I've only been on one Morgan hyper, which is this one, so I wouldn't know about the others, but rides like Aero hypers like Magnum have these just normal lap bars that can be restricting if you get stapled, but I can confidently say that the restraints on Phantom's Revenge have never really been able to staple me. These things give you so much room for the airtime, and this ride has a ton of airtime. It's easily one of the best, if not the best coaster in Pennsylvania. I am not as high on Steel Curtain as some other people are, so that's why this one's gonna get the spot over that. And the drop is also incredible. Just the scenery of going under Thunderbolt and diving down through the valley by a river, it's just the setting for this coaster is unmatched, so that's why I am gonna have this one at my number 10 spot. Alright, coming in at number 9 is going to be Storm Runner over at Hershey. One thing you guys need to know about me real quickly is that I am a sucker for launches, especially hydraulic launches. So this and Kingda Ka are going to be very high on my rankings. Kingda Ka is going to be up there pretty later. Yeah, this one, Storm Runner doesn't have as fast as a launch of Kingda Ka does, but it is definitely more intense. The acceleration is way faster, and it has a bit of an edge on a lot of other accelerators because it has a full layout. It doesn't just go up a top hat and then maybe an airtime hill and come back to the station. It has a top hat with a couple inversions, little speed section. You know, there's a little bit more to this ride than there is to something like Kingda Ka or Top Thrill Dragster or Top Thrill 2. And I think that gives it an edge over all these other accelerators at the end of the day. Alright, coming in at number 8, we have the first of actually 3 B&Ms in my top 10. I have Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This is my second favorite hyper, and you'll see the other one later, but this hyper is just such a fun ride, man. I remember this is the first ride I actually got on when I went to Great Adventure last summer for the first time. Kingda Ka was closed for most of the day, so we didn't get on that till later. So we ran over to Nitro, which is like on the other side of the park, and this thing has such amazing floater airtime. It doesn't have a lot of ejector. I mean, there's a couple moments at the end that have it, and then there's that helix, but this thing's mostly about the floater and just the good fun of going out into the woods and almost going on a little journey. So this ride, it has a lot of scenery and a lot of floater airtime, and that's why I have it at number 8. But I can also see if you guys put this a little bit lower. Just if you like ejector, then this one's not really your ride, but you'll still have a good time on it. Alright, coming in at number 7, we have another B&M. This is actually a B&M Giga, and yes, it is a Giga. The drop is over 300 feet. Leave me alone. We have Orion at Kings Island. So Kings Island is my all-time favorite amusement park, and I actually have 2 coasters from Kings Island in my top 10. This one's the first. This is a B&M Giga because, like I said, it does have a drop over 300 feet. I know there's like a big argument about that in the enthusiast community, but this ride, it's not as big on the airtime as, say, Nitro or some of the other B&M hypers, but this one, the drop is amazing, and it feels like it goes on forever because it drops into like a little valley like on the edge of the park that it's not really noticeable when you're on the ride, but you can definitely see it from off the ride. And then that wave turn is also a really cool experience, you know, just looking out into the forest of southern Ohio. and it's just a really unique ride that I don't think you can get an experience like that on really any other ride. The closest thing I can think of is maybe Millennium, which actually leads me into our next spot, which is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Cedar Point is my home park. I know I said Kings Island's my favorite, but Cedar Point is the closest in proximity to me. Millennium Force is an Intamin Giga, and this ride, I'm gonna keep it a buck, has pretty much 0 airtime, but that is not what this ride's about. This ride is about the speed and the intensity, and this thing is fast and very intense. I always gray out at the bottom of that first drop going into that first overbank, and I never get tired of this thing. It is just so fun. You just throw your hands up and feel like you're flying the entire ride long. It has some really cool fan interaction at the end when you go, line interaction at the end when you go past the queue line going into the station. And you can always wave to people, have fun, yell at people. So this ride's also just another good time. I hate how people call it Millennium Forceless, because it's not forceless at all. It's it has a lot of positives and laterals, just not a lot of airtime. So if you're into positives and lateral forces and speed, this is your ride. Alright, coming in at number 5, we have another Kings Island coaster and yet another B&M Hyper. This is Diamondback. This is the last B&M on the list, I promise, guys. Diamondback is my favorite Hyper and my favorite B&M of all time. It is just the perfect combination of what a Hyper should be. It has a nice drop, a good size, good floater, but also some good ejector. The restraints aren't too restrictive on this one. It has the clamshells that are on all the B&M Hypers and Gigas, so you guys probably know what I'm talking about if you've been on any of those. But this ride is just such a good time, and it's at my favorite park, so I always make sure to get multiple re-rides on this. And because, depending on the day you go, because of where this ride is located, it actually doesn't get as long of a line as you think, so you can definitely get tons of re-rides on this thing without even like buying a fast lane. You know, you go to Kings Island and this ride never has that long of a line for me, so I always make sure to get a ton of re-rides in. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite rides of all time because of how well rounded it is. Alright, now we're getting into the really good rides here. Coming in at number 4, we have Maverick at Cedar Point. This is an Intamin Blitz coaster, and remember how I was talking about well-rounded with Diamondback? Well, this thing gives Diamondback a run for its money because it has just about everything a coaster enthusiast or just a casual rider would want in a coaster. It has an LSM, basically a launched lift hill, a beyond vertical drop. It's not very tall, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in elements. It has really nice snappy transitions, a ton of good airtime, a couple inversions, and then the launch out of the tunnel is incredible. It's probably the best LSM launch I have ever experienced. Even since I haven't done Top Thrill 2 yet, that'll probably take that spot. But as of now, it is the best LSM launch that I have ever been on. And the entire ride in general, there's not a dead spot in it. There's always something fun that's happening on Maverick. You're never just bored while you're riding this coaster. So that is why it is going to take the number 4 spot in my list. Alright guys, are you ready for this curveball? This one's going to throw you guys for a loop. But at number 3, I have Guardians of the Galaxy over at Epcot. So this is the only Disney coaster I even considered putting up here. And not because it's the most thrilling or has the best elements like everything else on this list, but the theming and the experience of this ride from the minute you walk in the queue to the minute you get off of it is just unmatched. I know Disney's thing is theming, but they hit it out of the park with this coaster. It's I actually don't remember exactly what model it is. I'll put it in the description or in a comment, but it is like a spinning coaster with a couple helixes, and it kind of like travels downhill in this like hangar sort of building. But the theming with like the immersive Disney experience makes you feel like you're spinning through space with like these awesome soundtracks playing behind you, and it is just such a fun time. Like, forget that you're on a roller coaster, you feel like you're in a movie or like a sci-fi movie. It is just an incredible experience. I can't do this ride justice. You'll just have to go down and experience it for yourself, but it takes my number 3 spot. Alright, at number 2, I have another pretty controversial pick. Since I haven't been on Top Thrill 2 yet, this spot goes to Kingda Ka over at Six Flags Great Adventure. I rode this for the first time in August of last year, and I rode it 3 times in one day because I loved it so much. The launch on this thing, you cannot describe it. It's just another one of those things you have to experience for yourself. It almost feels like a car crash, but in a good way. You get to the end of that launch track and you're like, this ride should not be going this fast. This does not feel safe, but it is fun. And your ears actually pop at the top of this ride because it is the world's tallest coaster, and it's so tall that the pressure changes when you hit the top hat. So when you get up there, you don't even have time to look around, by the way. You're just already going down that other side, down that spiraling drop, into that airtime hill, which admittedly has a really bad rattle and doesn't really give a lot of airtime. It kind of just slows you down a little bit. But this ride is still incredible. I can get over the rattle just because that launch is so intense at the end of the track. And there's not much more I can say about this ride, guys. It gets my number 2 spot. I just love this thing. Alright, we are down to the number 1 spot, and honestly guys, knowing me and Cedar Point being my home park, could it be anything else? It's Steel Vengeance. This ride is just demented. The first time I went on this, I was 13. It was 2018. I'm a young guy, I know, but I went up there with my family, and we ride this thing. As I'm walking out of the queue line to leave this ride, I am just speechless and my jaw is on the floor from what I just experienced. This ride doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be allowed to be a thing with the laws of physics, but it is. I could say anything I want about the world record amount of airtime on this thing, the smoothest butter inversions that just feel amazing, or the fact that there's literally nothing to hold on to besides a little rubber handle, so you have no choice but to put your hands up on this ride. This thing is just incredible, and it is a ride that everyone should experience once in their life. And even if you can't get up to Cedar Point to watch it or to ride it, just watch a POV on this thing. You will understand what I'm talking about. Alright, I wanted to give 3 honorable mentions to end this one out. My first honorable mention is going to go to Sky Rush over at Hershey. This ride would definitely be in my top 10 if it wasn't for the garbage restraints it had when I was there in 2023. It did get new ones over the winter, so I will have to get back here, probably not this year, but next year I will get back to Hershey to ride this thing again. But the layout's awesome. It has some of the greatest intense moments and airtime moments on any coaster I've been on, but those restraints just continuously dug into my thighs through the ride, and I could not enjoy it. And then my next honorable mention is going to go to Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. This is arguably one of the best wooden coasters in existence for some people. I am not as high on it as many other people are. I think it's pretty overrated in my opinion, but I can still appreciate it for what it is. It's a GCI where, yeah, it does GCI things. It has some good pops of airtime, stays really low to the ground, has a lot of laterals and quick turns and transitions. It's not really my style, but I always ride this at least once when I'm down at Kings Island. It's not a one and done, but if I don't get back on it more than once, I'm not going to be that mad. And then my final honorable mention is actually going to go to the other Kings Island Woody, Beast. This ride almost cracked my top 10. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to put Phantom or Beast in 10, because the Beast's night ride in particular is one of the craziest experiences I've ever had on a roller coaster. And even during the day, this thing is like an adventure, man. You go all out into these woods, you don't know where you are. The final helix is actually really intense for a wooden coaster. It feels like it's going way faster than it really should for how old it is, and the fact that it was technically a DIN coaster since DIN worked on this one. So yeah, I would definitely get to Kings Island and ride these 2 wooden coasters. They're both incredible, but barely didn't crack the top 10.